Hello, hello, hello. Yes. Oh, AJG and Coney is in the chat. So I could not be more excited at all to introduce this next speaker, Mr. Ryan Burton. He is a PAX 8 OG. He was there in the very, very early day. He and I worked together at McAfee. Before that, I mean, there are few people in the channel that I have more respect for that truly understand the motion that is channel sales and how we move from vendor all the way through to the end customer, and that is Ryan Burton. So I'm going to bring Ryan up on stage with me. Ryan, my brother, how are you?
I am good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Um, my friend, the stage is yours. I don't know if you want to share your screen or if you want me to share the. Uh,
I should be sharing my screen already. Um,
there it is.
yeah,
Now we got it.
now you got it. Cool.
Perfect. I am going to pull myself off the stage and I will be here if you need anything.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Cool. Well, good morning, Rejection Con attendees. I'm Ryan Burton, the VP of Marketplace Strategy at PAX 8. Really excited to share a new perspective for MSPs on value adding reselling, which is a massive opportunity, especially in this new era of AI and automation. So, for the next 30 minutes, I'll show you how to resell line of business applications to drive more revenue, in turn, strengthening your client relationships without having to offer a full, deep support engagement like you do today for your IT stack. We'll explore why this strategy is really important and critical and how to implement it effectively. So let's get started and talk more about a transformative approach really tailored to the MSP community. So, over the past decade, MSPs have really been guided to focus on managed services and bundling IT software into a set monthly fee. This has led to a lean technology stack to maximize margin. This approach has been extremely effective, but it does present a challenge. So, for example, in 2025, the average company under 200 employees averages 42 SaaS applications. And by the way, that's just small businesses under 200. And that's the bare minimum. The average is over 100 SaaS apps. And yet, MSPs sell fewer than 10 of those applications. And that's because they're solely focused on IT products. Most of those products, of those 10, are not end user facing. So this gap really represents an untapped potential where you can add value within the supply chain. But additionally, with AI and automation, this is leading to new type of service providers who are really focused on automating business processes for their end customers. These new service providers are giving their clients concrete examples of how to leverage AI to transform their business. And one of the main use cases is automating the user lifecycle, which includes onboarding and offboarding of new employees. If MSPs remain solely focused on IT, they really risk losing a lot of ground to these competitors within a couple of years' times. So, in my work at PAX 8, I've observed MSPs with limited tech stacks struggling to expand their offerings. And this session really addresses that challenge on its head by demonstrating how reselling a more comprehensive set of solutions can position you as not only a strategic partner and not just an IT provider. Okay. So, why should you consider it selling, line of business applications? It's about creating new opportunities for growth and client engagement. So, as MSPs, you are already managing the user onboarding and offboarding for the IT stack you sell today. This really puts you in the driver's seat and makes you ideally suited to streamline your client's SaaS procurement. So, by reselling things like CRMs, HR platforms, project management software, even things like accounting tools, you can generate additional margin, typically between 10 and 20% on the sale of the software alone. But more importantly, this really enhances the client relationship and embeds you directly into their daily operations. So that fosters long term partnerships. This will also position you as a trusted advisor for automating additional business processes. So, in my experience, I've seen MSPs significantly increase their revenue by reselling a few targeted applications, transforming one-time clients into loyal advocates. So, this strategy isn't just about financial gains; it's about delivering the meaningful value to SMBs and contributing it to a broader cause. So, let's explore this a little bit further and put this into reality. How do we do it? So, it all starts with discovery. The first step in kind of selling a larger set of applications is to understand your client's technology footprint. Like I mentioned before, SMBs manage around 42 applications on average. Some of these are shadow IT and are adopted even without your client's knowledge. Identifying these applications is critical to uncovering resale opportunities. Solutions like Avix SaaS Management and other vendors out there can scan catalog of all applications from desktop software to cloud-based applications, providing you the cloud-based, comprehensive view of the entire stack across your customers. So, for example, let's say you discover 50% of your clients use the same application for finance. This leads to not only change of channel opportunities to move that licensing under you, but also upsell opportunities to the rest of your customer base. At Pax8, we've seen MSPs leverage this insight to create new client conversations and secure deals. This step is really not about promoting a specific tool per se. It's about gaining clarity and act strategically. So, with a complete picture of your client SaaS usage, you transform from an IT provider to a trusted technology advisor. So, let's kind of move next and discuss selecting the right vendors. Once you know the stack, now it's time to evaluate which vendors are worth reselling. Focus on SMB-focused features like things like single sign-on, flexible licensing such as month-to-month options, usage-based vendors that integrate with identity providers, or e-commerce enabled vendors where you can tap into provisioning APIs. And of course, quality documentation like end-user facing enablement materials, along with the vendor providing direct technical support for those end customers. This step will require you to engage the vendors or distributors or marketplaces to really understand their partner programs and tech capabilities. So once you do that, let's now dive into the automations itself. So let's focus on designing these automations. Let's first start with single sign-on. This is a critical feature for SMBs. So SSO allows your users to not only access the applications within a single set of credentials, such as like Microsoft, their Microsoft login, which in turn reduces complexity for them. But also, a lot of these vendors have what's called SCIM provisioning. That's SCIM provisioning capabilities. What that gives you the ability to do is automate user access and remove access if an employee departs the organization, eliminating the security risk. So, for license automation, you can also look for usage-based vendors that bill based on pulling their data from the identity providers. So, for example, when a new user comes on, automatically licensing that user. Or e-commerce enabled vendors where the provisioning APIs are available. So this is particularly valuable for the SMBs that have limited resources for cybersecurity and also want to manage their licensing costs. You can take this work and now transition into enablement. For example, if you find an LMS vendor that has these capabilities of the license automation and SSO, you can then add in user enablement within this automation workflow. And there's several LMS vendors and even security awareness training vendors that can give you this capability today. Implementation. Let's take a deeper dive on this. So, how do you actually implement it? There's a lot of tools out there, workflow automation tools. One specifically for this industry that comes to mind is a company like Roost, where they can integrate with something like an HR system to access user data, such as new hire or termination information. That is essentially like the initial form. So when a new employee comes in, you can leverage that HR system of record to automatically create a new user within Microsoft, assign it to a group, update their subscription, and initiate onboard training through the platform. For terminations, you can probably revoke access. This automation saves significant time and it provides accuracy, such as preventing overbilling and unused licenses. So, like I said, at PAX 8, I've seen a lot of this over the years, and I've seen MSPs manage these complex engagements and simplify it through these workflow automation tools. By automating these processes, MSPs can provide a comprehensive solution that goes far beyond traditional IT services. All right, so let's then talk about billing. So one, you want to make sure that licensing is flexible. So working with the vendors directly, like I mentioned before, to either see if they're usage-based or leverage a distributor or a marketplace that has month-to-month contracting, or even APIs you can tap in to automate some of this as well for licensing perspectives. A lot of these marketplaces or vendors direct offer CRMs, HR tools, and accounting software to do this due diligence. And then let's talk about adoption. So end user adoption is really key, since reselling is only effective if the clients actually utilize these tools. So many of the vendors provide enablement materials, such as training videos and user guides on their websites, or things for applications like think of CRM implementations or HR platforms. A lot of it is tailored for the end user themselves. These resources can be integrated into an LMS system to deliver tailored training to these end users. So for instance, when a new user or employee logs in via SSO, they can access the automated course, master that new CRM tool, and I've witnessed MSPs doing this exact approach. And it's all about creating a seamless onboarding experience that drives productivity. So by enabling users, MSPs can strengthen client relationships and demonstrate commitment to the client success. At the end of the day, reselling SaaS apps boosts your revenue through margins. It also makes your clients a lot more sticky and embeds in the workflow. This really future-proofs your organization against AI competitors who are working to automate the customers' businesses. It's time to rethink reselling more of a robust set of SaaS applications instead of just focused on just the IT core stack itself. Start off by discovering the stack of your customers, evaluate the vendors for SMB friendliness, and automate your processes, and of course, licensing through a flexible model. This is your chance to lead, not follow. And in this MSP world, let's make reselling a badge of honor. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in Q&A.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Ryan. That was
No
so
problem.
interesting. And you mentioned having SMB friendliness. We found that to be a really big problem actually in our MSP because we're big on automation. And so I love some of the ideas that you gave. How would you suggest, with like the shadow IT stuff you talked about, is there a way people can have these conversations? Because that was a huge problem that we still see to this day, is just things that shouldn't be there, right?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to like pitch or position any specific vendors, but there are vendors out there today. I mentioned one of them, like Avik SaaS Management. It's one of the tools in the MSP space, but there's a bunch of others out there where you can actually go and run discovery on the environments and see what your end customers are using. That's a really good place to start. So before building your actual strategy, discover what you actually have. That'll inform you about the synergies across your client base.
Yeah, I'm really curious how many people do that discovery ahead of time, because I know that we've walked into things and been like, oh no, because we didn't do that. So we actually started using Avik a while ago within our MSP. So not to pitch a product or anything, I don't work for them.
For sure. There's other tools out there too. But yeah, I think a SaaS discovery tool is a great one to leverage.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a question here. Let's see. Have you guys mitigated the lift of selling things that aren't experts in?
Yeah. So this is a great point, right? So it's actually one of the big things that I think I've heard MSPs fear is that they have to be like experts in everything because they're kind of used to that with the IT stack. But you'd be very surprised that these line of business vendors don't need you to be experts in these products. Really, all they want from you is the first line tech support for basic stuff like I can't get access to my system. So, like password resets and very high level stuff, licensing questions. So, usually, provisioning and billing questions. When it comes to actually the questions on the product itself, most of these line of business vendors are happily able to jump in and assist with the end customer support and implementation. And a lot of them, you'd be surprised, like they have a lot of like really good end user enablement and documentation because their business is built for end user adoption. So unlike the IT vendors that don't really build great documentation for end users, that's because they're not really built for end users, right? They're built for the MSP or IT departments. And so in the line of business world, the documentation's a lot better, typically.
And I would say something just within the MSP space to kind of feedback with you. There are so many resources. Like we've asked vendors to come in and do like lunch and learns with our team or with our clients, like our end users. And it's not just about the documentation. Like a lot of them are very happy to do that, right? You just have to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? We have a little more time. Let's see, anything happening in the chat?
I
Offboarding
went through
employees.
it super fast. Was that like 15 minutes?
Yeah, it was. You went so fast. So Charlie said offboarding employees has been a bigger sales point that resonates than I ever thought it would be. I think that probably resonates with a lot of MSPs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I want to hit on too is like there is a mad dash right now. Like, and I don't know if I explained it to the full extent earlier, but like there is a mad dash of end customers looking to automate everything. If you're not having these conversations, you're going to get left behind, and it's by your customers themselves. So like every single business at this point, or not every, but vast majority of businesses, especially if they're owned by a younger generation, they're looking to automate as much as possible. And with AI, it's available right now. Like they can do it, and so they're slowly working on automating processes. But like you want to be very careful that if you're not driving that conversation, it's going to be done without you, or they're going to be looking, on Google or another place to find someone to help with automation. And so I just want to make sure that like our MSPs are well aware that it's a huge risk as well. Like it's a risk for another service provider to come in, and IT is just a teeny little piece of an automation, right? I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that this is a huge risk as well.
Absolutely. And it looks like Charlie is giving you a little love here. We use PAX as well. So all the cheering on. We all love PAX.
Yeah, then one thing to mention, like APIs are available too. So like I gave a shout out to like vendors like Roost or workflow automation tools are great, but you can tap into APIs, and nowadays like even with AI tools out there, like you don't even have to be an expert in coding, right? So you can start playing around with leveraging people's APIs to build your own automations.
Absolutely. Let's see. Charlie's our big speaker today. Neck deep in Roost automation currently. It's going to change everything. I've heard that. I've never used Roost myself. I don't know if you have, Ryan, but I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah, and they're great because they're very focused on the MSP ecosystem of vendors. So they have a lot of pre-built integrations.
Yep.
The area I think that they lack a little bit is on the line of business side, but they, as long as, if you dedicate someone in your business, which highly recommend every MSP does, is they should be at this point dedicating someone for process automation, or at least like thinking about it. Their tools like Roost give you the flexibility that even if it's not pre-built, they make it pretty easy to integrate with other systems as long as there's APIs available. So.
Absolutely. It looks like we might have another question. Oh, here we go. You mentioned the margins available. Can you drill into that a bit more and provide insight into the best ways to maximize this? Oh, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, so I mean, keep in mind, the line of business vendors are going to be a lot less margin than your typical, IT provider. So I wouldn't expect you to be thinking about, the 50% margins you get on a lot of the IT side of the house. But for things like line of business, it's not inconceivable to see these vendors giving 10 to 20% pretty regularly. And a great example would be like Microsoft, right? That they're kind of living in that world, and they are a line of business vendor in many extents. But there's a lot of other vendors out there that, I mean, some of them, you'd be surprised where you don't even need to actually bill it to make that kind of margin. There's other vendors out there that have a robust like referral program. You can look at companies like PartnerStack or others that are marketplaces for referral vendors where you can find a ton of vendors that are willing to give you, 10 points ongoing for just referring business and not even billing it.
Awesome. And let's see, are there any other questions anyone's got? Let's see. Got some people talking in the chat. This is for most MSPs are and will have. Well, yeah, that is very true. So within our own MSP, we thought we were so behind on the whole automation thing, but we ended up finding out that was like our differentiator a few years ago because nobody was really diving in, right?
I think now's a good time. And like I mentioned before, like if you're not doing this, if you're not having these conversations, you're going to be left behind. I mean, we've seen some of our largest MSPs out there that have, I mean, like some crazy stuff where like some of the, head of the MSP's technology, like leaving their business to start an automation company. Like it's that big where, people are starting new businesses just on this motion. I talk to MSPs. I work a lot in our advisory councils, and we have a lot of businesses forming that are solely focused on this.
I fully believe it. I mean, we spun off a business and not here to pitch ImmyBot, but it was an automation product because nobody else was really doing it. So there's definitely some viability there in, like you said, if you're not doing it now, you're probably going to get left behind because everyone is trying to do more with less at this point. Even your clients, right?
That's what I'm saying. Their clients
Yeah.
absolutely are. You look at a lot of the hiring now, like it's slowed down a lot. So people are leveraging the people they have, and they're
Yeah.
trying to enhance the people they have through AI.
Yeah. And we know it's easier to keep a really good employee than try to find more, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
question around here about going into a
yeah.
niche. Absolutely,
Yeah.
this is going to happen, right? So, like as you start discovering, um, what is the sweet spot across your customer base? Let's just use an example. Let's say a lot of your customers are HubSpot customers, or HubSpot, or even Salesforce customers. Start digging into that ecosystem and find, okay, like sales and marketing. I don't know if you guys are aware, but like marketing and sales are a vast majority of the SaaS apps that end customers have today. It's probably makes up over 30% of all their applications are on the MarTech side. Um, so when you start digging into that, you start realizing, oh wow, that Salesforce has a whole ecosystem of applications that tie into it and automation to grow your end customers' businesses. And maybe you find that it's in the healthcare industry that you want to focus on. You can start having a lot more detailed discussions and get way better at adding value to them through their full life cycle of automating all their processes. So I think that this is one of the things where it can easily take you down a niche pretty quickly. The one thing that you need to be cautious of is that if you get too far down into a niche, like I'll use an example, let's say it's optometrist. So you get down to the HR thing and you get into optometry. You're going to find that there's specific line of business applications that are suited for that business that don't have a lot of integrations to other systems. So you could be in a place where like you might have to do some custom development work or find some help from a third party that focuses on that specific industry. So Depends on how far you niche down, but you can also get yourself into trouble if you go too niche.
That is absolutely true. And another little shout out for you. I used to work for Burton. These are great questions. So, yay. You're very
Cool.
loved in this room, it would appear. Do you have anything else, any more wisdom to drop on everybody before we kind of wrap it up? I know you moved through this so fast.
Yeah, I think there's some other I don't want to sell any specific vendors, but I think it's worth it for people that are listening. Like, there is some really cool tools out there where you can automate some of the enablement pieces. So for example, if you look at a company like USecure. USecure is a security awareness training. I think Finn might have this capability as well, where you can upload your own content outside of the security awareness content, and they have a full automation into like user provisioning with Azure. So for example, what that means is when a new user comes on, that can kick off a workflow to send a training out, right? And you could not only put your IT stack training, the stuff you sell, but imagine putting a training for, hey, new employee, this is the very first time leveraging Salesforce. Here's what you need to know. Oh, this is a tool of Rike for project management. Here's how to leverage it. Here's all the documentation. So you can add a ton of value by grabbing the data that already exists and putting it into a workflow for new users for onboarding and offboarding. And your clients will be delighted, because then when new users come on, they're way more efficient. They get up to speed faster. So it's a huge value that goes way beyond just IT.
Absolutely. And we've all had that person. I mean, I know I was that person in our company when they hired me. I didn't work in the space at all. And I was just dropped in and good luck, you're in the deep end. Hope you can swim. So
Yep.
set your people up for success. And this person said, tie the training into Empath, which is another, vendor in the space.
I did ask about Empath too, about do you have these capabilities? And they did mention that they are working on like a sell through capability where you can give that to your customers. I think they said like Q4. And they also mentioned they're also working on an Azure SSO AD integration as well.
That's
So
awesome.
that stuff, so that stuff could be very valuable in the future as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for being with us today and speaking to the group. I'm going to wrap this up if we don't have any more questions. Got some thank yous in here. Just so everybody knows, we are going to regroup at 2:15 for the next keynote, I believe it is, with Jordan Silva. And if you have time in between there, go visit the lounges and go chat with some of your vendor friends if you can. Thanks again, Ryan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.